There was a debate with him and Sassel about Solana versus Ethereum. It was right at the lion's den, giving it to the massive.
Nice.
I'm not a complete maxi, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
Thanks, mate. It was
Big
a lot
on
of
the
fun.
big guns. I like it.
So I've got a very quick question, just going back to Quart's question. So if you were a new Australian, I'm sorry I missed some of the start of it, do you have a recommended jurisdiction that you would launch in a new entity, or is that something the platform actually does? I missed it.
Good question, Aguada.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like I said, I'm prefacing, I'm by no means providing legal advice here.
No. But I'm listening.
But what I've seen, speaking from experience, typically you want to optimize the jurisdiction you're paying the tax in. The typical structure has been this three-pronged structure where you'll typically have a tax-friendly jurisdiction where you set up the foundation, a not-for-profit foundation. Then you spin up an IBC that basically take the loan from the foundation and then distributes the tokens. And then on the other side of this, you'll have a developer entity that's typically can be in it's for-profit developer entity. I mean, something you see it in like Singapore. You could do that in Australia. I think corporate tax is a little bit expensive, but again, probably just speak to lawyers. It could be done in Dubai, etc. That's a pretty standard structure. I think if you're from Australia, it doesn't really make too much sense, or doesn't really matter too much. I think it's just more for a personal tax implication. If you're an Australian tax resident, obviously you'll be paying Australian tax. So yeah, I know there's a lot of people that make their decisions around there, or they'll live in Dubai for 6 months, or vice versa. Go on, Sal.
Yeah, well, what's IBC? Can you just spell that out for me?
I believe it stands for International Business Company, and not to be confused with inter-blockchain connectivity from the Cosmos ecosystem.
Yeah, I just did a Google search. It said insolvency and bankruptcy code in India. So that's not
the one. Okay. No. You don't want it to be insolvent. But yeah, that's like the pretty typical structure, right? I think you as a director or a CEO, you just have to worry about your personal tax implications, but you'd probably be a UBO of the entity, I'm assuming, or unless you're working with a team member. But yeah, that's depending. Mostly just optimizing for tax. There's a lot of great firms out there can help with that. And then the other thing I do want to mention is there is a project that we're fairly close with, founded by Gabe Shapiro, called MetaLex. They're actually been pushing to move these like legally compliant entities and also be managed on chain. So you can think about it as like basically taking a multi-sig, maybe it's squads, and then putting a legal wrapper around that might be recognized in Cayman.
I got you.
So that's also a very interesting thing. I think MetaLex, I'm not sure, MetaLex.io maybe, or MetaLex something. We can send it around later. But yeah, they're pretty typical two things. Or you just go super high risk and I don't know, just have no entities and whatever. But again, I do not advise that one.
Yeah. I mean, if it was all legal, then obviously a lot more would happen, or a lot less would happen. Because right now there's 30,000 tokens launching, and some of them via Believe and Bags claiming that they are legal. Well, they're not saying they're legal entities, but they're claiming that they're affiliated with real businesses and brands, right? Which is pretty scary to see. Do the funds actually end up there into the hands of investors, right?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, like, people think compliance is a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I think you probably want to end up either on going down the fully compliant path and being as legitimate as possible, or probably, if you're not going to do that, you probably want to be on the other side of the spectrum. I think anything in between doesn't make as much sense, but if you are in fact compliant, you do things above board, that actually unlocked a ton of like traditional distribution channels. And you get to work with like larger partners and parties, and you can bring them to the table. You know, general thesis is that we expect our ecosystem, even still very, very nascent crypto as a whole, to continue to grow and be more widely adopted. And to do that, obviously unlocking the compliance element of it just adds a ton of credibility and future opportunity.
100%. Like if in Australia, right, you go to a website, they put their ABN or their ACN there, right? And that legitimizes it, right? Before, if people don't know this, but years ago, you used to actually not be able to buy a .com.au domain if you didn't have an ABN or an ACN. Now you don't need it. But same thing is happening in the crypto world, where people are just making tokens, but they might not have any legal entity behind it, right? But I would love to see one day where people put their token in the footer and that claims that entity is associated with it, right? So I worked with Nick in the past about something called Solana.txt, right? Like, that's an amazing way to sort of validate that you have the domain and you have an entity on Solana that could be, as part of a framework. But that's, maybe months or years away. Yeah. All right. So we've got a few questions now. So we're on a roll now. Thanks, everyone. So the challenging, hang on, I think we missed Quantazil's one. Oh, no, you did answer that one. Cool. Then we got Notorious Dev, GM, welcome. Challenging part about building this.
I would stand first. Technical to be coming from the notorious DEV.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, also on the technical side, obviously, the most challenging thing was aligning all the parts of the project, because, as you know, we have front end, we have back end, we have the smart contracts, we have also the product itself. So one thing was that was the most challenging, basically aligning all these parts to work together synchronistically. That's one thing. And also I would say the scaling part. So I remember when we had like the first big sale, which was Pure, we had a huge influx of users coming. So yeah, basically scaling that up was also pretty challenging. And once we reach this point, things have gotten better. So yeah, I would say those two things from my perspective and technical perspective overall.
Okay, Bruda's here, GM Bruda. Thanks for jumping in. Love the credibility by wallet thing. Ideally, can we choose multiple wallets? Is the platform KYC only? So it is KYC only for that question. We know that. And the credibility thing, can we add multiple wallets?
Yeah, you can add 10. I saw this actually. Someone added 116 wallets.
You gotta be kidding me.
And yeah, we can support SVM, EVM, kind of unlock achievements. I don't know, see which airdrops we've got. We've done like the Solana Seeker stuff that he's unlocked. A bit of fun. I think the premise of this question around it being KYC is probably the idea of being doxed or not. So for the wallet side, we offer the ability to connect via a private wallet only. So it's basically hashed, salted, stored in a completely separate place, and obviously you can't use it like you would normal wallet, but you can kind of extract the score from it, and then it just gets siphoned off, and even we don't see it. So yeah, we're also very conscious of that too.
That's a lot of high numbers. That means stuff.
When you're going to connect it, you've got a little tab bar you can click. I think it's score only, and then yeah, that kind of keeps it as a hidden wallet.
Nice. I'm looking at the white paper, and now it rings a bell. Gabriel Shapiro, he's LexNode. Is that the guy behind Gorbagana?
Yeah.
Yes. No.
I guess so. He can.
Yeah, amazing. Multiple things. Geez, we got a competitor to Solana, a legitimate competitor to Solana. Amazing. All right. A question from the audience. How much would it cost to set up the compliant 3-prong structure? What do you mean from the audience? Notorious is doing a stream, sitting in Bali at a bar, and he's asking people to ask questions. Let's go.
Oh, no.
What's the
Yeah, I mean, typically, you can get quoted a lot of money, but to be frank with you, you could probably find a pretty decent lawyer setup. A guy I've seen in Singapore, you can get it done between 6 to 8K USD. That includes the end setup for everything and all the initial setup. Just the only one thing to keep in mind is typically between 1 to 2K of ongoing yearly tax requirements and accounting that needs to be done on top of that.